Hey guys, so as you know, Star Wars The Last Jedi just came out this last weekend and I've seen it 2 times now. And right when I came out of the movie, I noticed that there were a lot of mixed reviews on this movie. A lot of people have problems with it. And so today I just wanted to talk about why I believe The Last Jedi works, why I think it is a great addition to the Star Wars saga. But before we get started, I just want to throw in there that this will definitely be a spoiler-filled video. And so if you have not yet seen The Last Jedi, go ahead and check it out and then come back to this video. In a nutshell, The Last Jedi is a good movie because it takes the Star Wars universe in a brand new direction. It tries new things. This is like the first Star Wars movie in a long time where there's not even a mention of some kind of Death Star or Star Killer. The first reason I want to talk about why this movie is such a good movie is the character development. And I want to focus specifically on Kylo Ren and Rey. I loved Kylo Ren's and Rey's relationship in this movie. It just worked perfect. I love how they are able to communicate through the Force. I think that is very cool. And it's kind of cool to see how at first they were very reluctant to talk to each other, but then they start getting a little bit more comfortable with communicating through the Force. It gets to a point where Rey does see a bright future for Kylo Ren, and so she turns herself in. She believes that she can take down the First Order, that she can have Kylo Ren turn to the Jedi. And within all this communication between them, you also see a lot of development between both of their characters. You see that Kylo Ren is still a conflicted character from the first movie, and he still has his problems that he's trying to sort out. And you can also tell that he seems even more conflicted in this movie with the death of his father and with the stress of the First Order. And then with Rey, you see her on the island with Luke, and you see how she's still trying to find answers as to how to control the Force, and especially who her parents are. And while there's not a lot of answers when it comes to her parents, unless you consider Kylo Ren's answer, where he pretty much just told her that her parents are alcoholics, but I don't think that's the full truth. I think in Episode 9 it's going to explore a little bit more. I think at that moment, Kylo Ren was just telling her what she already believed. He was searching her feelings, and since she's already convinced herself that her parents are nobodies, then that's what he grabbed from her feelings and thoughts. I still believe that there's going to be some kind of connection with Obi-Wan Kenobi, especially with The Force Awakens when he says, Rey, these are your first steps. He's got to be in there somewhere in Episode 9. So character development. Great job. The only main character that we don't see too much development in is Finn, and that's mostly because he is separated from the main story, I feel. But overall, Rey and Kylo Ren's character development was amazing. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when we get to see Yoda visit Luke. Right when you see the back of his head and that he's glowing, I started freaking out. And perhaps my favorite thing about Yoda in this movie is that he looks like a puppet. I think that is genius. I am so glad that he doesn't look CG, because if he did, it just wouldn't be as cool as the original trilogy. And so it's cool how this movie made sure that he looked the same as he did when he passed away. That he looked the same as Luke remembers him. And I also love how he acts the same way he did in the original trilogy. I mean, it only makes sense that he would. How he's kind of this crazy Jedi Master who's been a hermit for the last many years. I love how he still has those traits when he visits Luke. In fact, you see him laughing as he's blowing up the ancient Jedi text. You see him hit Luke in the face with his cane. I mean, it's just amazing. It's the Yoda that we remember from the original trilogy. Another cool thing about this movie is all the celebrity cameos. It is pretty hard to notice quite a few of them, but I did notice Prince Harry. In fact, I noticed him on the first viewing, and it just confirmed the second viewing. And if I'm wrong, well, that's awkward. It's in about the first 20-30 minutes of the movie, right when they find out that the First Order is tracking them through lightspeed. Poe turns to Leia and he says, "Permission to get in a cockpit and blow some things up." Leia says, "Permission granted." Right after that scene, you see 2 pilots running over to get into their ships and start blowing things up. I believe he's the one in front, or he may be the second one, but it's the red-headed pilot. I am positive that is Prince Harry. Watch it and see for yourself, just so I don't think that I'm going crazy. Now, I kind of want to elaborate on what I said earlier, how this movie is unlike any other Star Wars movie because it tries new things. Going into this trilogy really, what I expected when Snoke was introduced in The Force Awakens was that he would be the new emperor of this trilogy. And he'd probably be more of a background character in the first 2 movies, and in the third one, just like Return of the Jedi, he'd be a more main character. Someone would probably fight him, and in the end, he would die. That's what I expected. But when he dies in this movie, I was so happy. I didn't even know that's what I wanted, but when it happened, right away I was alright with it. Because this Star Wars movie changes the direction of what we were all expecting it to go in. Snoke is dead, and when he dies, it's the coolest scene ever. One thing that I think is very cool is that Snoke was feeling Kylo Ren's anger, and he knew that he wanted to ignite the lightsaber. But Kylo Ren, I feel like in a sense, Kylo Ren is a lot stronger than Snoke gives him credit. The fact that he's able to do a reverse psychology with the Force or whatever and convince Snoke that he was about to kill Rey, but in reality he actually kills Snoke is very cool to me. And when he actually does kill Snoke and Snoke just like looks down like, what the freak did you just do? And then Kylo Ren just kind of beckons the lightsaber to come to him, and then you just see Rey's hand like pop up on the screen, and she catches a lightsaber. They look at each other, and then they just go ham on those guards. That is probably my favorite scene of the whole movie. And I think the reason I love that scene so much is not only because it was so unexpected, but also because for a moment, you are wondering if Kylo Ren is going to switch to the Jedi. I mean, the scene before, you have Rey talking to him saying, I see your future and it is bright. Snoke isn't involved in it. You can still turn. There's still hope. And then you see him kill Snoke, and so immediately you're like, well, I guess Kylo Ren may actually turn to the Jedi. But then it's immediately shot down when you see that he offers Rey to join him to rule the galaxy. And I love Kylo Ren's motive. Snoke is now dead. He's basically saying, forget the Jedi, forget the Sith, forget the Resistance. I mean, let's just start our own thing and rule the galaxy. Rey's like, Ben, please don't do this. And he's like, please, join me. He even says, please. I like that he says that. And I also think the decision of killing Snoke is the most genius thing of this entire movie. Because Snoke is dead, we can now focus on Kylo Ren's motives of ruling the galaxy with Rey. And because Snoke is dead, it just further proves that the First Order is split, that it is a broken order, that the Resistance is broken as well. Another great thing about The Last Jedi is there is a lot of symbolism used in this movie. I noticed two key symbolic scenes. This is right after Kylo Ren and Rey have fought Snoke's guards. It's a very suspenseful moment because you see Kylo Ren offer Rey to join him to rule the galaxy. I wouldn't say that she's considering joining him, but there's definitely some hesitation. She's definitely thinking about it, whatever she's doing. You see her hand raise, and then suddenly she uses the Force to retrieve the lightsaber. But at the same time, Kylo Ren also uses the Force to grab the lightsaber. So Kylo Ren and Rey are both using the Force to try to get this lightsaber, while at the same time, the rebels are trying to escape from their main fleet onto that rebel base. Obviously, the First Order has caught on to this. They're shooting down the escape pods. But at the same time, purple-haired lady, do not remember her name, has plans otherwise to crash into the First Order's fleet with light speed. Now, these two scenes are perfect right next to each other because it is very symbolic of the First Order and the rebellion being split. You see the purple-haired lady use light speed, crash into the First Order, and then they are quite literally split in half. Very powerful scene to show that the First Order is slowly really deteriorating. They're losing numbers, and it quite literally is showing that they are split when their fleet is literally split in half. But at the same time, cut back to Kylo Ren and Rey's fight, Luke's original lightsaber, Anakin's original lightsaber is split in half also. And so it's very strong symbolism that not only is the First Order losing in this, but also is the Resistance. They just lost a lightsaber, a very iconic lightsaber also. And I just love that those two scenes were right next to each other. The symbolism and the power behind those two scenes are very strong. The next symbolic scene that I want to talk about is towards the end of the movie. In fact, this is practically the end of the movie. The Resistance has boarded the Millennium Falcon, and Kylo Ren has entered the rebel base. On the ground, he sees the dice from the Millennium Falcon, which he knows was Han Solo's. Now I want to rewind a little bit, cut back to when Luke and Kylo Ren were fighting. Luke says something very interesting. He says something along the lines of, strike me down in anger and I will stick with you, just like your father has stuck with you. And that just confirms how conflicted Kylo Ren is. Not only is he worrying about the stress of the First Order and ruling the galaxy, I mean, that's pretty stressful. But he also is living with the guilt of killing his father. I don't think he's gotten over that. And so that's a very powerful line, and I find it very cool how when he enters the rebel base and picks up the dice, they're there long enough for him to see them. And then they disappear just like Luke's Force Ghost. Those dice could have easily just disappeared at the same time as Luke, and Kylo Ren never sees them. But because he saw them, it just confirms that Han Solo is still with him. I mentioned earlier that I got very emotional when Yoda visits Luke. Another scene that got me very emotional was when Luke and Leia reunite. Even though Luke is not there in person, it is still a very strong scene nonetheless. Especially when he hands Leia the dice. What I think is so cool about that scene is Leia's and Han Solo's theme from the original trilogy starts to play in the background. Harrison Ford is literally not in one scene, yet you feel him in the movie. Another amazing thing about this movie is Luke's send-off. Yes, Luke has passed away, and I think it works very well for this movie. I was actually reading an article where Mark Hamill, when he found out that Luke would be dying, he asked Rian Johnson, the director, if he could save it until episode 9, so Luke could at least be in the movies until the end of the series. And Rian Johnson said, I would do that, but the thing is, I want the 9th movie to be Rey's ending, and Poe's ending, and Finn's ending, and Kylo Ren's ending. This is more focused on the new cast, whereas Luke's ending was in Return of the Jedi. He's more of a supporting character now. I thought it was very well done. Huge reminiscent on the 4th episode. And one of the great things about this movie is it leaves you wondering what the heck is going to happen in episode 9. A lot of people are wondering what will happen with Leia, because she's still alive. Her character is still alive, but obviously Carrie Fisher has passed away in real life. People are wondering how the Resistance will carry on. And we clearly see that Leia's friends aren't really her friends after all, because they did not come and save them. Also, I'm curious of what the future of Kylo Ren and Rey will be. We saw that Rey closes them off and that they are enemies again at the end of this movie, but I'm wondering if they will have more communications through the Force in the next film. But overall, The Last Jedi works for me because it took risks. It went in new directions that no one was expecting. And a lot of the reasons people are hating on this movie was because Snoke died and they didn't want that to happen, or because they didn't like the way Luke was presented. And perhaps one of the dumbest reasons I saw that someone's hating this movie, they said that there's not enough R2-D2, there's too much BB-8. I mean, hello, this is BB-8's trilogy. He's part of the new cast. We're not going to see a lot of R2-D2. I think a lot of people are not fans of this movie because it wasn't a traditional Star Wars movie. I think if anyone but Rian Johnson directed it, for the most part, it would have just been another traditional Star Wars movie where Snoke lives. He's going to be a villain in the 3rd one. Kylo Ren and Rey probably have a lightsaber duel. There's not even a big lightsaber duel in this movie, but yet that's okay. We didn't really need one. I just think this one worked out so well. Thank you for watching this video. I wanted to post it because it's just bothered me how controversial this Star Wars movie has been. To me, this may be the most controversial Star Wars movie that has ever been released. But I am definitely on the side of fans that loved it. Make sure to watch my marathon video with my sister, the Blonde Genie, where we watched every Star Wars movie leading up to The Last Jedi. See you later!